Hello, hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Ding, 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 ding. This is your fave, ZBGiana. This is your fave, Makoti, guys. I think this name has already stick. You know what? Maybe I should just run with it because people call me Makoti. Yeah. But yeah, guys, I do not hate the name. I actually love the name and I embrace it because it's the name that you guys have given me. So today, almost when you see me in these chairs, in the studio with these lights and everything, and this mic, you definitely know that I am not sitting alone. So today I'm sitting with one of my colleagues, my colleagues in the YouTube space, and also my colleague in reality at Sense Studios, guys. And please, before I go on and go on, please do not forget that this video is sponsored by Sense Studios. If you want to come and shoot here, please do check us out on Instagram, TikTok. We also have a website, www.sensestudios.com. You can check us out there and book, your session or come and view the studio. I'll tell you, you will love it. Definitely, it's a promise. So today I'm not alone. Today I am with Umpo. Hi, Umpo.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. How are you feeling? Because we just feel like we just shot an intensive video, that made us to reflect, that digged deep into our emotions. How are you feeling?
I'm grateful, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Kumnandi nje, cruising nicely. Cruising nje nicely, no complaints.
I'm glad that you're okay. And before you even tell people who you are, can you please introduce your segment so that people can come and watch the Dear Diary podcast?
So, guys, I happen to have a segment coming up right here, also sponsored by Sense Studios Production. It's titled Dear Diary, the podcast. And basically, what will be happening is, in the literal sense of a diary, we will be making heart to heart conversational diary entries where I'm going to be having guests who would like to talk about their experiences, maybe challenges that they've experienced at the hands of their parents, maybe because they grew up without parents, or just about any challenge that you have inflicted on you by your family or anything of that sort. So if you'd like to come in and join me on the podcast, we'd have a number here that you can call or WhatsApp, but please note that it's not a personal number. So I will not be answering and responding to any texts.
For sweetie.
For sweetie, anyone shooting their shots, that's not the number. I'm not going to be responding to anything unrelated to the podcast. So yeah, do search me up.
Yeah, they can set you up on the Sun Studio Production because there's
channel,
so many segments, guys.
Oh, yes.
Please do support Sun Studio Production. We have different flavors, different segments. If you're a person who loves, sad stories, marriage, little bit of gossip, going to people's news and stuff, you can go there. And if you're a person who's emotional, reserved and all that, we also have that content for you. Please do check them out. I'll just put their channel here so that you can go and search them up. Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mpo, for joining me. So before we even go, with other things, can you please introduce yourself to my lovely viewers?
Okay, so my name is Mpo, as you might have heard Zintle say, Mpo Manganye, and Mpume Fosloras. I've just been a Fosloras, born, raised there, went to school there, high school, and then went to varsity in Johannesburg, studied film and television. I'm an only child from my mom. And from my dad, it's a tricky situation.
Dads are always the problem.
Please don't tarnish my dad's name.
I'm not, but dads are always the problems. Because even me, on my mom's side, we are two. And on my dad's side, I don't even know.
You see? So on my dad's side, I was the only one up until I was 21. And then when he was about to pass on, he told me, Guti, there's a sister that I have older than me. And after that, he passed on. Unfortunately, I can't say there was no room as if there's never going to be, but in the moment, there hasn't been room for us to cultivate
connect.
a relationship because I feel like umuntu bekangayenza that part
It's
kahle.
your
It's
father.
him, my dad, and manje akasekho, it's upon us, and it's very tricky.
No,
Do I
it
want
makes
a relationship with my sister?
or
I don't
not. You
know.
don't know. It's not that you don't want to, but you're
Yeah,
in
I
a space
don't
of.
know.
Even me, it's very tricky because my dad has other children. I know a girl and I know there's a guy. I know nje baninginyana, but I don't know how many we are on my dad's
Exactly.
side. And I have a sister. I even told you the other day that, you know what? I disconnected myself. If you'll be watching this video, I'm sorry, but I just disconnected
Yeah.
myself because of the relationship. For me, it wasn't, nurturing. It was like a bit toxic, nyana, So I was like, no, I don't want this.
Yeah,
So
of
on my
course.
mom's side, we are two. We could have been three, but God has his own
I'm
plans.
so sorry to
And
hear that.
thank you. So I am very close with my sister,
It's nice.
from my mom's side, not from my dad's side.
Of course.
So I called you into this channel, firstly because I wanted to be a lesson, to young people that hey, there is nothing that God cannot redeem.
Exactly.
There is like I'm also talking to at also at my point, like myself,
Personally.
personally, that there is nothing that God cannot redeem.
Yeah.
Mostly to young people, because we feel as if redemption is for people maybe who have been holy or who are
Yeah.
holy. We feel as if redemption is for people who haven't done 1 2 3, but it's like once you have done 1 2 3, you are at no
feel
point. Yeah,
undeserving.
you feel so undeserving. You feel like God cannot redeem.
Yeah.
But God can actually redeem.
Definitely.
And we're
Definitely.
sitting here, we are this beautiful. It's because of God. It's because we have been redeemed. It's because we are not better than others
Yeah.
at our age, or younger than us or older than us. We are seated here. It's because of God's love.
Yeah.
It's because we have been redeemed. It's because
By
we
God.
have stories, that are dark, that are shocking, that are like, when?
Yeah.
But people can't even tell. It's because God redeemed us.
Yeah.
So, my sister, what's your story? Maybe take us through back on how you grew up, just a bit, because I want people to come to your segment because you delve in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you talk about it more, how you grew up, who you grew up with,
Yeah.
who raised you, you talk about it all. I just want you to give us just a portion and then we can move to the story that you have.
Okay. So I grew up from my mom's side of the family, right? With my grandmothers, excuse me, my grandmothers and my cousins. And besiloko sibaningi nje,
Yeah.
right? And I didn't have it hard. Shem, I'd be lying. I didn't
had
have
an
it hard.
easy
And I didn't
childhood.
have it easy, but
It was
there's
in the
people that go through the
middle.
most.
Yeah,
That when I
true.
sit and I look and I'm like, oh, but God,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but also, I think for me, the suffering was more emotionally than physically.
Than physically.
Physically, I never lacked. Like, I never lacked anything. It was just, those emotional strains. It was, oh, I'm having it hard now,
Yeah.
and there's no one to run to. But other than that, I was an okay child, and I wasn't even a troublesome child. I've always been a smart child. What else can I share without really repeating the
I
stuff
don't
that's
want you
mentioned
to,
on
to
my
reveal
channel?
too much because I want people to come and
Yeah.
get the full nuggets that side.
On my channel, yes.
So now we can move to now we know that Mpo has grew up as, I think I can say for most of us listening to your story, like we didn't grow up difficult, but we didn't grow up yet too easy.
Too easy.
It was just in the middle,
Yeah.
Some days are better than others.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are a girl child now, you're going through the emotions of you lost your dad, you lost your mom, like you said, there's no one to run to. How do you navigate that space? How do you navigate those feelings and emotions? Where do they take you, when it comes to friendship, relationship?
you know, um, when when I say to you, Guti, I didn't have it hard physically, I really didn't. But namanje, like I still wish Guti there could have been better models emotionally
Yeah.
within the household, because when now the unfortunate loss of my mom and my dad and then my grandmother came, I did not know how to deal with it because I had not seen it being done better.
Yeah.
So all that I've witnessed, unfortunately, was, destructive
Yeah.
for me personally. So what happened was, not really what happened, as if there's a story, but basically what I'm saying is how I grew up and where I grew up. There's always been this exposure to alcohol,
Yeah.
right? So it so happened, okay, when I lost my mom, I was very young, couldn't have ran to alcohol, right? But then when I lost my dad, alcohol was the first point of contact.
It's like a void opened,
Yes,
and you
like
were
just
like,
to cope. And it's so scary how it happened because from one point I was drinking and going out grooving for fun. And then when I lost my dad, it's now a coping mechanism. When I lost my grandmother, now I'm dependent. It's a survival tactic because I don't know how to process emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know how to, I do not even have the vocabulary to speak what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, what I'm going through. And also the loss of my mom and my dad and my grandmother. No one has lost my mom because I'm an only child.
Yeah.
I just experienced her
People
passing.
cannot
People cannot
relate
really
in a way.
understand. And
Yeah.
even if it's sort of like maybe a delayed reaction, I can't really go back because abantu bangathi, hey, but it's been years and get over
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So if there was someone also team, maybe a sibling, means
Speak
it's
about
5 years,
it.
10 years later, I'm like, hey, kodwa ngikhumbula umamami, and they'd be like, oh, I miss her too.
I
No
can
one would shut
relate.
me
I
down. But
understand.
still with me, it's very fortunate but unfortunate that most of my cousins, njoba sikhule ekhaya, we all didn't have mothers, right? So mangizothi ngikhumbula umamami, they would understand what I'm talking about because they also know the
Lose
feeling of
how.
missing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a safe space. Yeah, it wasn't a safe space. I couldn't be vulnerable. I needed that, personally speaking, because I am a sensitive person. Like I feel
Yeah. In
things.
tune with your
I
emotions.
deeply, so I needed that nurturing of my emotions. I needed that nurturing of my emotional well-being, and there was no one to do that for me, but also understanding that people, were also faced with their own things.
And some they do not know better at that point.
Exactly. Like I may have lost a mom, but my grandmother also lost a daughter.
Yeah.
I may have lost a mom. My grandmother's brothers and sisters, my brothers,
They lost a
brothers, they
sister.
lost a sister.
Your
We all
cousins lost an
experienced,
aunt.
yes, we all experienced a loss one way or the other. So, but for me, I really could say that I needed some emotional nurturing more because yeah, that's the part that lacked. Mengithi, I didn't lack physically, I really mean that, but emotionally, yeah, so much could have been done. So much I wish could have been done.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, I can relate so much to your story, because of, fortunately or unfortunately, I still have my mom, but I didn't grow up, with her because she was working a lot. She was working far away. So when my grandma from Witbank came and said, "Oh, I'm looking for a daughter," I they had to take my sister, but my sister, because of the situation at home, she was like, "No, Rada's in go, so maybe you can have a better life, life than being here at home." But on the other hand, on my father's side, my dad was not there. Like he was a pop up dad, I'll just
Okay.
pop up,
And
then I
disappear.
make promises and then disappear.
Yeah.
And I've battled a lot emotionally. And at first, I didn't understand. Sometimes you do things and be like, no, this is just me. Like you're saying, for you, you had to find a way where you cope and you felt like, you know what, I can't talk about it. So I need something that will make me numb.
Yeah.
And for you, what would make me numb is I'd go and drink,
Yeah.
I'd go and party. And you felt like it was fun. You felt like, you know what, this is me. I'm just
Lalela.
living my life.
I
Hey,
centered my personality around that.
yes, you're
Namampitsa
thinking,
Munatimpulaye because of how consistent I was.
Monday to they know
You
on
know.
weekend we have Mpo, you know. I deeply understand that. And I think most of us, that's what we are going through.
Yeah.
Physically we're fine, but emotionally we're
There's
not.
a lack.
Like I also had a stable like home where I grew up at Wheatbank, and my mom was there, you know, she was trying, you know, because man, they don't know better
Hey,
because
they're
of how
also
they.
here for the first time,
Yes, they're also
guys.
here
Let's
for the
also
first time.
extend
Yeah,
grace.
mom, maybe even if you're a mom for a second time, but you don't know better, you
Yeah.
know. And my dad, you know, now I'm struggling with issues of rejection, and that led me to dating. I dated a lot for fun, you know. Not to say when I'm saying dating, then people will come, hey, you slept around. No, I didn't really sleep around, but I would try to find a emotional
Yeah.
connection on guys,
Yeah.
you know, and that became like sort of like a trade. Like, no, I just, you know, I date with this person for a week. I don't know if we can even call that dating. And then I'm like, nah. Then
Bored.
yeah, I'm bored. Now I go here, I'm like, nah, but I'm bored, you know. And we look at these things, we find young girls and young men today, they are drinking, they are vaping, they are doing, you know, all these things, and they are thinking, this is just who I am. But in reality, if you look, you needed someone to teach you and say,
The
you
thing
know,
is, Zintlene, these things are fun until they're not.
whew,
And
girl,
it's a very fine, like a thin line.
true.
It's very hard for us to realize when we've stepped out of just having fun.
Mm,
It's very hard to realize when you've tapped into making groove or whatever habits that you may have picked up, making that as a tactic for survival. It's very difficult for us. The line is very blurry.
and that's because it's blurry because we don't know.
You don't even have anyone to communicate
Yes.
that, because if you had someone to sit down with ukulume, like you have a conversation, you like upon reflection you will sit down and be like, nah, I'm no longer having fun, you know. So I'm fortunate good, I'm a person that does self-reflection a lot.
Yeah.
So I sit and I ask myself a lot of things ukuthi, what's the purpose? Like ngizoze ngibone ukuthi, nah, this lifestyle isn't serving me.
It's not
It's
fun
because I
anymore.
sit down and I reflected ukuthi, what is it serving now? Because what good is it when the night before I'm claiming to be having fun? Like, you know, I'm dancing till njeng manzinte, and then I wake up. Do you know post groove depression?
No.
My sister, listen
Diabo.
to me. You wake up the next morning and maybe you did not even spend money, but you're just filled with sadness. You're just filled with regret. You just you just hate the fact that you went out. But then now, because you're there, you can't face any realities of the day.
Yeah.
You have to make plans again for the upcoming nights. Mele kuphunye futhi, because I can't sit alone and face these emotions.
Yeah.
I need to be intoxicated. I need to be high. It's all just because you are avoiding. So if it's very unfortunate ukuthi if you don't have someone to sit down and talk to, and also if you're not a self-reflective person,
Yeah.
you will find yourself stuck in moments for longer than you should be.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, guys, valid, we go through things and we really just need an escape. And then you escape. But be aware of when you are being dependent. Be aware. Like, just don't just leave and just go on with the day, go on with the day. Because you'll miss moments thinking, Gucci, you're still having fun. You'll wake up like years later and realize, Gucci, I stopped having fun 4 years ago.
Yeah.
What was I doing the whole 4 years? Which was the case with me.
You were
What was I
surviving.
doing the whole 4 years?
You were
I was surviving.
surviving.
I was escaping. You know, an influx of emotions that I didn't understand, that I didn't even give myself time to sit down and go
And
through. You
understand.
know, I didn't put the effort in myself. In as much as I'm going to say, Gucci, there was an emotional lack at home. Yes, there was, ne? But now that I've grown, was I putting in the effort? I wasn't, but I was. It's very selfish of me actually to be sitting here and say that I expected my family to show up emotionally when
You didn't even
I,
voice
I
it
didn't even
out.
want to show up for myself. Forget voicing out, like show up for myself. You know, sometimes it's harder to have a conversation with someone else. But mawuhleli uyi-one kanje, ngiyakutshela umqondo uyasebenza. There's
True.
moments where you're like,
But I
that's not
messed up.
good. Yeah, but I missed. And then what do? We become so naive that we don't want to go
You
head on with those
repeat.
issues. You would rather make it a cycle. And then the next thing you know, your whole personality is centered and built on that. And now it's hard to define who you are apart from mentioning ukuthi umpho groovist. I didn't even know where I would start describing myself
You
without
lie.
mentioning groove.
Was it
Without
that
mention
bad?
my sister, Monday, we had Mkhod Mondays. Tuesday, catch up Tuesdays. Wednesday, wakey Wednesdays. Thursday, who's that
I
Thursday?
get
Friday,
it, bro.
Saturday, Sunday, it's weekend day groove. Do you realize? And
It's like every day
every
you're
day of the
drinking.
week, every single day of the week, and not just ebusuku kuphela. We'd obviously start during the day. Phela
And you think,
kumele
it's just a Mokgodi
pre-drinks,
Monday. We're just
you know?
chilling, man.
Yeah,
And
and
you're
then
creating an environment for something that's yet to come, like ebusuku now.
yeah, ebusuku
Heavy.
sekuyaqalwa futhi. So what fun is there? Like, do you think wena masohleli kanje nje uyi-one, do you think that's normal? Do you think that's a good type of fun? Looking back now, I'm like, nah, why bengangikhuzi?
Why
Nathula.
bengasho?
Naze nathule, naze nakhohlakala. But I'm like, also, sometimes people, I've had this conversation, sometimes people don't say certain things because they are worried ukuthi izolenda kanjani kimi.
That's so true.
When I stopped drinking when I was in, I remember khona umama yabo estratini sethu, she says to me ukuthi, yo, bengithi mangikubona njalo udakiwe ngisho ukuthi ey'lafe lihle. And I'm like, why didn't you say
Why
anything?
didn't you say? But
Why
another thing,
ungibukelile? And
would
she was
you
like,
have understood what she was saying at that time before you had that conversation with yourself?
that's not the problem. The problem is, would I have wanted to understand?
Or to even listen. Or
Would
you would
I
have
have
like,
wanted?
"Uqalile lo Scefe, so mama,
Exact.
yeah, yeah, yeah."
Ngibangela umsindo because mina ngifuna ubumnandi,
Ufuna
It's all
ubumnandi.
about that ukuthi, was I willing na? So when I say this ukuthi, hey, naze nathula nangiyeka, I say that like jokingly because I understand ukuthi you can never want something for someone more than they want it for themselves.
themselves.
So they may have seen me and wanted differently for me, but up until mina ngifune something different for myself, nothing would have changed. It was up to the moment where I was like, heck, hurtful.
I'm tired.
Nah,
So
I
now, when you're
can't.
going through all these things, like obviously Monday to Sunday, here is Mpompo is drinking heavy. And like you're saying, maybe we want to say something, but hey, we can't at that moment, because there's no space even for us. There's no safe space
not
even
even
for
room,
us to go to Mpo and sit her down, because we know if we sit her down, zoqala seziqalile, baqalile, they want
Yeah.
to ruin
Uthi
my
ngiyatholakala nje.
youth nje.
Uthi ngiyatholakala nje ukuthi
How
nize
did
ningisithe
that
down.
how did that affect like your family, like looking back now when you're sitting and you're like, yo,
You know how it affected my family is so crazy because I've never, like, njengoba ngisho, like, there was no safe space. So ekhaya, guys, man, aswabamba ma meeting.
umuntu nomuntu.
Yeah, so but then I realized the difference between me and my family now and then. At the time, maybe they might have been feeling good, hey, what's going on? Because imagine umuntu namfundisa uyeva sithi promising, and then the next thing uhlala dakiwe yena Monday to Monday. Maybe they might have experienced disappointment, and but there was no room to communicate that. But now I'm seeing the difference in how they approach me, in the treatment, in everything. It's different now because now they see me as a person. Now they see me as a reasonable person, as a reliable person. Like, nobody would have addressed me the same way that they do now, like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because firstly, anguzwa, I'm high. So uzokhuluma nam.
There's nothing we can say, vele.
Mangena nyangena nyageza and out.
Uyaphuma.
Ngiyaphuma mangiphuma ngidizi. What conversations are you going to have with me?
Nothing.
Because by the time ngithola ukulala, depression has kicked in. Ngilala for like a week. I don't even step out of the bedroom. And now that's depression. That's shame. Because I'm also realizing, man, this is not who I am. So ekhaya, they are also realizing
Like,
that.
you're like, how will they look at me the moment I step out from here, while they saw me coming here, tatazeling to my bedroom?
So there was also that shame of Uguti. My goodness, I think I'm letting them down. Like, letting them down, like every weekend. So there would be shame locking me like a kamarin, like literally ngaphume kamarin. Ngiphume nyokeze ebusuku or ekuseni mebalele, just to avoid that. Then the next time they're gonna see me is when a friend is coming over and khipha itulo sohlala ngaphandle. Again, we're drinking. So that cycle would go on. So now it's very different. Even their treatment, angazi mhlampe I'm seeing things gay or I'm experiencing things, but they are kinda. But that's also because you teach people how to
How
treat
to
you
treat you.
by how you treat yourself. So now I'm kinder to myself. I'm experiencing that from them. Now I'm gentle with myself. I'm experiencing that from them. I'm considerate. So they seeing how I treat myself and then they are reciprocating that. And I'm truly appreciative of that, Shem.
So, what do you think caused the cycle of you? Because you would say you would feel depressed, but then what made you to, after the whole sleeping, the whole of sleeping for a week, being depressed, being down, being in a dark room, those kind of creepy things, when depression makes you go through, then you wake up and say, you know what, fuck, I'm going to drink. What made you do that? Like,
Excuse
in
me.
that moment when you are feeling so depressed, why did the first time, the first, incident that you had, why didn't you say, you know what, this is not for me? Why did
Because
you keep on repeating the cycle?
I did not associate the depression with my habit
Oh,
of alcohol, with my lifestyle of alcohol. I just thought that my depression was just because I've been experiencing loss, like
oh,
one after the other, one after the other. And I assumed, and I fooled myself into believing that alcohol was just a way to cope for me. I remember this one time my sister saying, after I had just locked myself in the room for like a week and then Banglanda to go to my other sister because they're like, we don't know what's going on. I remember my sister saying to me, "Would maybe just quit alcohol for a week, for a year." I'm sorry. And I was like, nah, it's not alcohol. Alcohol, I drink because I'm sad. I'm not sad
yeah,
because I
I
drink. But
drink.
really, who was I fooling? I was fooling myself into believing that. And yeah, I sleep my baby because I believed that lie and I went back to alcohol. And not really realizing that alcohol contributes greatly to, mental turmoils. Like I was not depressed because I'm drinking, but it worsened my mental state.
Yeah.
Because now circumstances haven't changed. I've still lost my mom. I've still lost my dad. I've still lost my grandmother.
Life and is moving on.
Life is moving on, but I'm not going through. I'm still not like in a chokehold, near depression, because I'm always constantly sad.
Yeah.
No, like I'm not there, and it's even greater now because I'm always sober. Like people always ask me, "What's "Ubhekana nenkinga ngqo, usober?" After you had just experienced alcohol like so strongly, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna lie and say it's hard. It's not hard, and it's not hard because it's not a change that was brought to my life by myself or by my efforts. It's a change that got so fit. Uguti,
It's
you had
time.
wasted enough time doing things that do not concern you. But now it's time for me to do the work that I have with you. And I do not know that yet now. I'm learning, I'm discovering. It's interesting, I'm enjoying. Yes, there's days where I'm like so sad, but
Yeah.
never depressed that all I want to do is lock myself. Ngithanda ukulala nemina and I love my space. So you may find me like always in the room, but I'm never like so dampened, like my soul's so heavy, like as it used to be. And now I'm like, guys, what was I doing? Bengangikhuzi
Bengenzani?
ngani?
Benga.
Bengangikhuzi ngani?
Nkosi yami. I definitely do relate with what you're saying, because I remember also me 2020 when I started living alone. I started living alone 2018. No, I wouldn't count that. Started living alone 2019. And then 2020, I went through the most. I went through the most, like I went through depression. And these are the things that I hardly even talk about. Like my family even didn't know like I was, suicidal. Even now they still get shocked. Like, if my sister can watch this video, she will get shocked. Like,
Hayi bo,
Konje,
ntombazane.
I but what was going on? My brother is always making fun of it. I don't even want to say, because it's like you want to kill yourself, kwenzenjani, kwenzenjani. But it also goes back to there that we don't have role models who would show you how to handle big emotions as a young girl who's still developing, how to handle loss, how to handle all those things. We never had those things about mental,
Yeah.
what. And 2020, it was God who said, you know what, mid 2020, it was God who, you know what, we need to break the cycle. Because you date, you get disappointed. You date, you get disappointed. It goes back to where? It goes back to rejection. Why am I doing all? Why is this cycle repeating itself? I'll date for a week. I'm tired, man. We didn't even do much. We didn't even talk much. But you know what? Your presence is just tired. Yes,
Iyangikhathaza
and
nje.
and you know. And I realized that's a cycle of rejection. I reject you before you could even reject
Yeah.
me. Yeah, I get tired of you so that when you are tired of me, I'm already
Dala mina
out to
sengikhathele,
Sengipumile. You
sengiphumile.
know, it's a cycle of rejection. And there was no one who ever said, how do you feel that your dad is no longer, is not in your space? Or, your dad is alive somewhere, but you guys are not in contact. This thing of him coming, making promises, not keeping them. I started thinking, that's how men think,
Main thing.
until God, exposed these things, because God now was ready to do it. He was like, you know what? I'm tired of you.
Yeah,
I'm,
always crying.
I'm tired of you always crying. I'm tired of you being depressed to a point where I was almost suicidal. So now let's get into your journey where now you meet God and God meets you. Where you now just sleep and wake up the following day, you're like, you know what? Actually, I don't want this life for myself anymore.
So, as internet, before I answer that, it's so crazy how we when we are not aware of certain things, we don't get to experience them.
Yeah.
So what I mean is, I remember back in high school, we knew nothing. Okay, personally, I knew nothing about depression or mental health, and until I do not know, I don't even want to say I cursed that day, but until I do not know what happened and says fundiswa depression, and then now I
Suddenly you're
started
depressed.
associating every feeling and emotion of sadness in a depression
Depression.
until it actually manifested as depression,
Depression. Because it's a
and
spirit,
it's
my
a spirit,
sister.
yes. So
What people are not teaching us is that it's
it's
a
a spirit, like
spirit.
heavily so. So the fact that bengayazi, it means ukuthi I was free and I was safe. But now the fact that like it was introduced to me, now I'm exposed to spirits that are not concerning to
Yeah.
me, and then I find myself heavily depressed. And then um I think it went on, like the feeling of depression went on. I would just always find reasons. Ukuthi, oh, I'm depressed because this happened. Oh, I'm depressed because this happens. But it was just a lingering thing. And
Yeah.
up to a point where then I was suicidal. And in
But
20,
before, I'm sorry to cut you, but like when you think about this, do you see how these things start? They start as fun. I'm dating for fun.
yeah,
Like I'm not sleeping around. I'm just
yeah.
dating. I'm not drinking heavy. I'm just
Trust
dating.
me.
I'm just drinking
And
until
then the next thing
there's
you
no
know,
line
yeah,
anymore.
you're so
Until
yakakamela
it
njiwe.
leads you to suicide.
Yeah.
It's a
Because it's
spirit.
so crazy how the first, like the first time, Kishan is the first time after a successful attempt, but it was not successful because I'm here, but an almost
Amen.
successful attempt. I was hungover. Like I had just gone to Groove on Sunday, and then Monday came. I angazi kwenzakaleni because Sunday I was okay, dancing on top of tables. What do you mean Monday morning?
I was
I'm
depressed.
depressed.
Who, me?
Ngiyakubona depressed. Sengifuna nokufa.
Hayibo,
Hayibo. Hayi.
ufike njani lapho?
Sekuyimi loya manje ngicokelela amaphilisi, overdosing on pills because I'm done. And I'm like, looking back now, I'm like, how did it get there? Because yes, I've always acknowledged ukuthi, hey, there's some sadness here and there. But I wasn't suicidal. There was just moments where I was crying for help.
Yeah.
It was never suicidal. You know. So I remember I would just always cry, even after like the suicide attempt happened. After then, I remember on the bed and I was very dizzy, and there was like my family was there after, the ambulance is now outside. And now I'm just gaining conscious, like in and out of conscious. And I remember just saying, it might have been a prayer, but in that moment it wasn't. I remember just saying that I either die like in this very moment, or I'll never attempt suicide. Like, or I'll never, because what am I putting my family through? Especially like the little girls that were there, like
That are
peeping through, that were
watching.
seeing me like fighting for my life, literally. And I was like, oh my goodness, I either need to die now, or
Mpho.
it's never gonna. No, because for real, like, how was I gonna continue doing that to them? I'm busy trying to grapple through traumas that led me to a depression, and then I'm inflicting traumas to the
To
kids now.
them.
Sebangibona manje, yabo, over and over. So to me, it was a thing of I either pass on now, please, like let it end now, or I'm never gonna do this.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna face life. So even after that, like I struggled. I tried journaling.
All
I
these things,
tried all of these
meditation.
things, and unfortunately, I didn't have like financial resources for counseling and stuff like that. But, I really did try. I was intentional. I
Yeah.
really was intentional about healing and being okay. I acknowledged that I am not okay and I don't like
You
not
had
being
already
okay.
taken the
The
first
first
step,
step, yes, which is very
acknowledging.
important. So when it comes to how then it happened, like I remember for like nights every day, even when I'm drunk, I would be like, oh God, I'm so tired of being sad. I don't like this sadness. Like it was so heavy. I was not a pleasant person to be around. If we're not drinking, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
Like
What are we gonna talk about?
exactly, like bengafuni nje ukuba sober. I remember there's a guy that even said to me, "Guthi Wenampo, you are against sobriety." And at the time it was a joke. But that thing stayed with me. Oh my goodness, is it that bad? I didn't want to be sober because being sober presented an opportunity to reflect. And
On
I
your
hated,
traumas, the
yes, I
feeling of
hated
loss, and all
everything.
those other things
You
you
know,
went through.
I hated everything. I wasn't in love with myself. I wasn't in love with my life. I was alone. So I started praying with, oh my goodness, God, please. Like if you could just this thing, ukuthi nje ngiphume out of this darkness that I don't understand. And I kept on drinking, but the drinking never stopped.
Yeah.
It was like this. In fact, bekungathi kuyakhuphukela. I even remember there would be moments when ngizozibuza ukuthi, hey, maybe kumele ngehlise utshwala. But then I would be like, if ngehlise utshwala, then who am I? Because
So
alcohol was my
your identity
personality.
now was
Yes,
rooted in
and
alcohol.
alcohol
Ooh.
and groove. So it was a thing with yo mengizoyeka utshwala uNkulunkulu wami ngubani. I don't know this girl. And then it happened with vele ngiloko ngiyaphuza like continuously strong. Do you understand? Very strong. And then 2023, I think 2023, yeah. I continued like with the prayers with God. My prayer was with,
Help
oh
me.
Nkulunkulu wami, please, this sadness is heavy now. I can't, you know. And then I remember 2023 January, ne? I was like, I'm gonna have a sober January just to clear my head.
your mind.
Yeah, and that was God. You'll understand why in a few minutes. I'm like, okay. I had the longest January. You know ukuthi vele nje January mude.
Uvele what times for?
Hey, smanga said thing I. That January was extremely long. Like
Yeah.
I dreaded every single day of that month because I was looking forward to the moment ngizothi nje qotho eyi-one ibandayo,
Yeah.
And then I had the sober January, but it was hard. And then kwafika February, lalela bekhuphukela, so I was drinking kabuhlungu. It
You
was
were
even
like,
painful.
hi, sex.
Ngiphelile uJanuary phela manje.
I've
Goal
kept my
achieved.
commitment now. Yeah.
I went
Yeah.
back even harder for that March and for February and March. Yabo. And then April, isikhathi Easter, right? I went through this other interview and it was very promising. Yabo. And I had been unemployed for quite some time at that moment. So make an interview and it's promising. I'm like, oh my goodness, big break, nyana, just that relief. Because I had also associated my mental struggles with the fact that I wasn't working. So I was like, oh, a relief, yeah.
Pleased.
And then Thursday, I went to an interview on Tuesday and they said they're urgently hiring. So I was expecting a response within that week. It is, yeah, figure my sister, and there's an email and it says, unfortunately,
Yo,
oh, Zintle,
I'm sure the pain.
the pain. Like I remember just breaking down, like I just crumbled. I stood like by the door, behind the door, Cameroon, and I just crawled down and was like, God, I don't understand.
What's
Like
going
if this
on?
is you, then please show me that you are in it because right now it doesn't make sense.
But then, sorry to disturb you. Do you think that you were gonna cope being the mpo who's so dependent on alcohol and now work comes into place? The stress of work.
Listen. So now it continues now after that Thursday. From that Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was drunk to a pulp. Like there was no second where I was sober in that weekend, right? And then Sunday, yakona, angisho Friday yakhona bekuyi-Good Friday. And then Sunday ke usuku olukhulu
Yeah.
lokuvuka vele.
Ilanga
And then
Jehovah.
yes, Monday ke I woke up that Monday and it was like a new person had just come up. Like it was so crazy because
It's like
Sunday,
you died and resurrected
yes.
with Christ. Oh my God.
Sunday yakhona like I was drunk. And when you're drunk, you would expect to go to Mauvuga, you hang over.
Hangover.
Monday, Mangvuga, I was okay. And I remember texting my sister, hey, when you come back, please buy me a Bible. Angisafuni konke okomhlaba, sengifuna uNkulunkulu.
You
And she
lied.
and she laughed at me because she thought I was joking because I'm mhlampe ukhathazwe weekend enkulu abuya kuyo. But to me, in that moment, there was not even a thing of ukuthi I'm gonna try being sober. It was a knowing in my spirit ukuthi this era for me, it's done. And now, looking back now, I realize that so many of the things that I've been praying for are sort of coming now. So
They're
to answer
manifest-
that question, Uguti, I think that I would have coped? No. And God knew. So that's why all of those doors were closed. Like there is no job application I didn't send. Like I probably must have applied like over 5,000 times. And you can't tell me Uguti 5,000 times and you can't get a job.
There's no even
A
one
single
door.
one, even the one that requires metric, even a cleaner, nothing. Never. No.
God.
So it was God saying, Guti, you can't
It's
go.
not time.
You're not ready. For you are not gonna be a good steward of this blessing. I'll bless you and
Where is the
people
money
will
gonna
not
go?
see me. People will not see my glory. It's gonna be misleading because I'm pretty aware that certain things you know it in your spirit. I also know that I have influence.
Yeah.
Because even nanoma being groover, I would be influencing on the type of bev to drink. So it's within me, Guti, I have influence, but now had
which
God blessed me with
kingdom?
those things,
Eh.
what influence would I have been giving out?
And which kingdom would it serve?
Not him.
Not him.
Not his. Definitely not his. So for me now looking back, yes, in those moments it was painful to be sending out like tons and tons of applications and you get no response or you
Or
get
rejection.
rejections. But now looking back, I'm like, God would never have blessed me with something that would have taken me further away from him. He never would. So all those jobs would have given me access to money. What would that money made me do? Would drive me away from him even further.
Yes, because now arrogance comes in. Now you have
Now
money.
I can afford.
Now you can afford.
I don't have to save for, if I want to go out on a Tuesday to
You just
drink,
go.
I go out. So do I think now, literally, do I think and as do I sit and think, Oguti, God would have blessed me with all of those things? Never. Because the influence that he has placed within me would not have benefited him. Because essentially we're all here to be used by him for his glory.
God, for his
so if
glory.
it does not bring him glory,
What does it bring him?
it brings him disrespect. It brings him
Yeah,
lacking the word.
we are nailing him on the cross. We are nailing
and
his
again,
son on the
again
cross
and
again and
again,
again because of
you
the
know?
pain that we caused him.
So he never would have done that. So in those moments, he was looking at me like, just get done with what you're doing now. Like one thing about me, I believe it so much that I'm destined for greater things.
Amen.
But I had put myself in things that blocked that path for myself.
Or that made it, if those blessings had to come,
They would still
faster,
distract me.
or faster, and all the things you've been doing, it's like we put ourselves in delay. We
do.
we put ourselves in circles that we shouldn't have. When God says it will, we are just like Israelites.
Literally, that's what I'm thinking as you're
Christiane.
saying, Guti. You see what should have taken me 11 days. Here, it took me 400 years because what was I doing indulging in alcohol the way that I was?
My
What was I
sister,
doing
what were we
indulging
doing?
in all those things that I never should have? But as I said, Guti, we lack guidance.
True.
And we find ourselves putting ourselves into the darkest pits and expecting God to take us out. Not that it's wrong to expect him to take us out, but the thing is, he's never going to take you out and place you nearby.
True.
The work to fix the damage is going to take longer than the time that it took to actually, put the damage into place. So a habit that lasted with me for years, it's going to take like a lot of time for me to reverse the damage that it did, because I am not where I thought I would be. I'm not where I wanted to be why? I brought that delay by indulging in things that I never should have. And I'm
Phew.
learning to accept that now, Uguti. The fact that God has still kept me means, Uguti, he still believes that I will get there. And
Where
he
he
is
wants you
taking me
to
there, taking.
be.
So it might be taking
Time.
time, and it
But
might be going a little
eventually,
different. Someone said to me, Uguti, don't miss your breakthrough because it's not packaged how you thought
how
it
you thought
would.
it,
You know,
yo.
my breakthrough looked glamorous. Even after like my deliverance with alcohol, with depression, and my breakthrough looked glamorous.
Glamorous.
My breakthrough looked incredible, and God was like, nah, we're not starting there. If I start there,
We start
then you
from
could
the
easily go
foundation.
back.
Yeah,
We have to
we
unlearn.
have to unlearn certain, when you are saying that, you just said something, it reminded me of something. Reminded me that God can do it suddenly, like He did it for you, like He did it for me, like He did it for other people. Like He can take you out from that thing so suddenly.
Yeah.
But even after that suddenly, there's still work that needs
Yeah.
to be done.
We are taken out of it
Yeah,
suddenly,
we are
but
taken out of
zona
it.
zihleli kithi,
Yes.
and it takes time to take those habits out of us, those
True.
experiences out of us.
Because in that, as much as God can do it so suddenly, even taking out, everything, the pain. You can, with God, you can unlearn everything in a day.
In a day.
When He says it's done. But He doesn't do that because there are things that we need to benefit. You need to benefit self-control. You
Yeah.
need to tell yourself, pause, I'm not going to go
The
there.
fruits of the spirit.
Yeah, I'm
man.
not going to do that.
Yeah.
You need to develop patience.
Patience. Ooh, which is a
just
tough one
to-
for me.
You, sister, I think all of us are struggling with patience, waiting without knowing. It's very hard. I think it's the same thing for me. I've been praying. There's something disturbing me. That animal is disturbing me. But I've been praying to God, like, I'm tired of this thing and I want to know what causes, this thing, me dating and be like, ugh. Think I have like r- real solid relationship apart from my husband. It's like maybe two. If I can say that I dated and I really dated, it was like only two, which they brought heartbreak and headache and all those things. So I've been praying that I want to get married young. But firstly, how do I get married young when
With all these
yeah,
traumas
with
that
all
you
these
had.
traumas and baggage and all these things. So I had to go through a process of learning and unlearning, which has been so tough. You
Of
see this
course.
brother, you say this brother's so fine.
And you can't do anything about it.
You can't do anything about it. When the brother comes, you have to say, listen, if you are not my husband, you are
Please
not
look
for
the other
me.
way.
If your heart is not found in God, then you are not
You
for
are not
Do you
for
know
me.
how hard it is?
You know what I said is it this other day, ne? And I do not know how serious I was with this. I remember when I had just gotten like out of alcohol and all of
Yeah.
these things, all I wanted to do was like read the Bible, pray, and be in
you are-
worship,
you are- you are encouraged.
And then I remember saying that I've always known, because I want one day, God willing, I'd like to get married and have a family. So I remember just saying to myself, God, please, make me invisible to anyone that's not my husband, and make me blind
To any guy
anyone that's not my husband. Let me see
husband.
only my husband, and let me be seen only by my husband. And now I'm like, oh,
What
me?
have I done? Because you are literally invincible, and all the brothers,
guys.
they're like blinded. You're like, am I the problem?
Am I the problem, really?
But you remember
But I'm
the
like,
prayer,
girl,
and you're like,
what's your ganja when? And then you say you praise the God that answers prayers. This is your prayer
this is
being
your prayer,
answered.
girl.
Yeah.
But I think it's so nice, being like I look at my sister and I'm like, she's not the type of a person who dated a lot. And I look at her and I look at the fruits that it has produced. Her being patient. They're so beautiful, Mpo. They are very, very, very beautiful. And I look at her, I'm like, wow, I'm so proud of her. And I think sometimes we rush
And sorry to
certain
cut
things.
you. Njengoba usho kanjalo, to show that like it's God actively working in your life. You look at her and there's no envy.
No,
You are
Yo,
proud of
I'm
her.
proud of
That's
her.
beautiful.
I'm like, wow, this is beautiful.
You can literally see that,
Yeah.
you're also intentional about learning
Yes.
and unlearning the
Yes.
things that you've went through in your
You.
relationships, because you could have easily been like, oh my goodness, yo ngiyamkhalela, because she didn't go through this and I went through this. But from the fact that like you're looking at it from a place of love and you're actually saying that
Yo.
I'm proud of her,
Man.
it's nice, man. It's
Yo, man,
commendable.
I just look at it, I'm like, yo, waiting in God, being patient in God, it's such a beautiful thing.
It is.
My God, it's so beautiful. And it's so hard when God teaches you how to be patient, when you had to unlearn certain traumas, when you had to learn certain things, and now you desire marriage, and marriage comes, and marriage finds you with traumas and
Oh
baggage
man,
and
and you
all
ruin a
those things.
good
And some
thing.
things they will even develop from them because, now I'm living with this person who has lived there 20 years something
Yeah.
before me. So now we are clashing. Now you're like, wait, what?
And the hard thing is that when God teaches us patience, he puts you in a situation that requires you to be patient, and you're like, but my brother, I don't know how to be patient.
I don't want to
To
even be
begin
patient.
with.
But it's so nice, like I said from the very beginning, that when it comes to God, there's nothing that God cannot
Man,
redeem.
nothing. Nothing. Like literally nothing.
Mpo, I feel like I've learned a lot from you. From you saying the things that you're saying of how God, has taken you from where you are, from where you
You
were
were. Mm-hmm.
to where you are right now. It's so beautiful. Like looking at you, I can never even see that
You
Mpo
can't, right?
used to be a heavy drinker, She used to groove until, the tables would turn. She used to,
Listen, when put
because of
grooving of
Greg.
5. Do you understand? Like of 5 a.m. Mina can't
Can you
phone.
poop? You are the last one.
Yimocima sound. Okay, yamaki.
We're looking at it, we're laughing, but the work behind, the work that you have done for you to be able to sit here today and even speak up about it.
And also being,
Oh,
intentional about it, because I could have easily went back. I'm surrounded, literally surrounded by people who
who
drink.
drink?
Like not just ganjigan, no,
Drinking
people who
heavy.
drink. And I could see sometimes like maybe being low and it gets tiring, and I'm like, let me just go out, you know and then when you're puma, and then maybe like just 20 minutes chilling with them, there's not even a single thing in me that's gonna be like, hey, maybe me ngati kosololo.
You see, when God
And I'm
takes
like,
you out,
that January way, yes, over January, it was in my own strength. And God made that very clear. Like it was such a clear thing for me when I look back. Uguti, that January, God showed me, Uguti, yes, I'm going to take you out of alcohol, but I want to do it in a way that you will know for sure that it's me, so that you could never sit and lie and say that, oh, I could do it, because I tried to do it January.
and it failed.
Girl,
And it was
girl,
hard.
I felt like I was
Woo!
dying.
I feel like
But
all of us are there.
in April when it happened, I just went to sleep drunk, and I wake up the next day.
You're sober.
I'm
You
like,
you have
hey,
no
Eli Baipeli.
interest. I want to live for God.
Angifundji konke komhlaba. And from that moment on, I've never looked back. I've never even tasted like alcohol.
Alcohol.
Maybe there's been amagama amaningi, and I'm like, kuwe bengisaseyinkathi zami, ngabe heavy. But I don't even have that desire to taste. And up to this day, like whenever I pray, I thank God for that, because I realize, Guti, it's not me. So I never will boast ukuthi, yeah, strong phela mina.
Ngikhonile ukuziphumela mina
No, I
kuphi.
always thank God, Guti, thank you for taking me out of that, because it was such a destructive pattern. It was such an unfulfilling moment of my life. So when if there's one thing, Zinhle, that I wish for myself, ne, is progress from that part of my life.
Amen.
I do not ever wish to go back
You do
to
not-
find myself. I don't, angfisi. So if there's any influence that I would like to have, it would be influence different from that. Like
True.
I don't want to find myself influencing someone else to drink because it's cool. Because it's cool up until it's not.
Up
Because
until
that's how it
when?
started for me. It was cool. It was fun until it wasn't. The next thing, I'm battling a tough thing that's, hard for me to quit. So
Yeah.
I don't ever want to influence someone to say, start drinking. No shame, judgment, or condemnation to anyone that drinks.
Whose
It
drinks
serves them. But I'm saying that,
for
like,
yourself,
for
from
myself,
now.
just be careful, Uguti, when you're starting and you're saying it's just for fun. Always have those moments to revisit that choice.
Is
Uguti,
it
is it still
still for
just for fun?
fun? But even that for fun can be very damaging,
It
because you can
can.
think it's just, you can say, convince yourself it's
Yeah.
just, no, man, it's just for
And
fun.
nothing is as bad as
Until
believing your
when?
own lies.
Until
Guti, yeah, it's
when?
fun, it's fun, it's fun. And then 5 years later, you wake up and you realize, Guti, it's been nothing but destructive. You can't even point a
I
single
haven't even
moment of
built
pain.
anything.
You know?
Now I have to start.
Start
This
from
this
scratch.
thing I could have healed 5 years
And
ago.
doing as
I have to start.
This other guy, this one time I was going to visit my sister. So it's like, vele, vele, usaphuza impho like at all. I'm like, no, angisaphuzi. Like, no, I'm
It's
fine.
done.
And it's like, hey, besisisho vele nathi. Ngithi, but why ningasho, like I said. And it's like, the thing is, when you present yourself, ukuthi you're smart, we all thought, ukuthi you know what you were doing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I must have done it beautifully to make you guys believe, ukuthi I know what I was doing. But at the same time, I was drowning. It's because I told a lie so much that I started believing
You were
it.
just, no, it's just for
It's
fun.
just for fun.
No,
So
I'm
everyone believed me.
fine.
Ukuthi, "Hey, ke monate mpolaye ngwanoni." Kanti literally I'm
You are
drowning.
dying. You're literally
mpolaye.
dying.
Yeah, for real. I needed help, but I never could have asked for it because I'm cool.
I'm
I
fine.
started because it was fun.
Yeah, I'm fine, man. I'm just having fun.
Just be careful when it comes to that, Uguti. Like, are you sure you're not lying to yourself? Because once you manage to convince yourself, it's very easy to convince the next person.
True.
It's very easy to convince the next person. So make sure, Uguti, the next time you convince yourself, it's not about a habit that is destructive. It's not about a lifestyle that will take you away from God. Because ultimately, the goal is to draw closer to God. And be
The
careful,
goal
like,
is God.
God will use different experiences. You see, with you, He used your dating life, to draw you closer to Him.
Imagine.
He used my lifestyle as, a groovist to draw me closer to Him. Someone else out there is battling, I'm sorry if it sounds like sensitive. Someone else is battling infertility issues, not knowing Guti, God just
is
wants you to
drawing-
go to Him. And then uzothi mawufika kuye, usarend, and God is going to be like, then let me do it my way.
Because you have tried it your
yes,
way,
you
it
have tried
didn't
your
work.
way. Sometimes, like, let's take it literally when they say, like, do your rest, like, do your best,
Then
and let
God
God do
do
the
the
rest.
rest.
Sometimes funuk control so much that it's even unhealthy to us, because when we fail, we believe that we're failures. When we can't achieve certain things, ngamandla ethu, we think they are impossible to be achieved. But to begin with,
That's
it was
not the
never
point.
yours to deal with. Like, when
It's God's.
is to leave it to God, and He'll do it the best way He can.
My sister, our time is literally ending. I feel like we just need another session where we'll just, speak, but now not speak about the past.
Yeah,
Like,
of
delve
course.
deeper into our relationship with God,
God,
where God has taken you. Like, God has used me. He has shown me people to go to pray for me, to confess. Because if you do not confess, God keeps you in shame.
Yeah.
If you didn't come out here and say, I used to drink heavy, I used to be a groovist, I used to do this and this, He would keep you in shame. And when you are in shame, you keep on going back.
You keep on going
It's what we
back,
spoke
yeah.
about when you said, I would sit in a room because I would be full of shame.
And go
but you
back.
keep on going back.
Yes.
So we need to speak about these things. We need to focalize them so that even other people who are going through them, they can make an example and say, you know what, Mpo did it, Zintle did it, who did it, so I can do it.
Yeah,
And God
to
can
show
do
that
it
it's
for
really
me.
possible.
It is possible, but you have to want it. And sometimes you don't even have to want it. God will want it for you, and God will
You have
do
to
it.
be willing.
You, just like Paul didn't want, he was enjoying killing people who were speaking
shaming the
about
Christians.
Christ and all those things. But he didn't want the gospel.
Yeah.
But God wanted it for him. And because he was born, God knew this man has a purpose, and he will fulfill that purpose. He will not stay there. So sometimes you can feel like you don't want something for yourself, but if God wants it for you, then
Preach,
definitely
sister,
it's
preach.
gonna happen. Woo! Let me just close the show because our time is over. Mpa, thank you so much. I can't wait to have you back again.
Thank you so much.
Definitely.
It was so nice
It
and
was
so
very
fun sitting
nice.
and speaking to you. So yeah, I look forward to, The next time I'll
The
sit
next
and talk.
time, so we delve deeper now into the word and
Yeah.
after, as much as yes, we have touched after, before and after, but now I want us to solely concentrate
Because
on
we
the
have been set
fruits.
free.
Yay, on the fruits
And
of being set
you
free.
know,
How does it feel? The
yeah.
struggles when we face, temptation. How do we deal
Because
with
they
it?
happen,
They
right? You're not
happen.
delivered and then you don't ever experience it. The
True, because you
temptations.
still live in the
Yeah,
flesh, and the
you
flesh
know
what want it wants what
what it
it wants.
wants. Mm-hmm.
But then now we will have another session, guys. I promise you, we will delve deeper into the fruits of freedom. Because the Word of God says, when the Spirit moves, when the Holy Spirit moves, nothing ever stays the same. Because in
Exactly.
Him there's liberty.
There's liberty,
We are
yes.
liberated. So we'll dive deep into that. I'll speak with our simple so that she comes back and grace us. Please do not forget to subscribe and like this video and share. Please, guys, comment. If you are bounded by shame and you saying, maybe I can't write it on the comment section, I'll leave my number. You can come. Let's pray together. Let's advance the kingdom of God as young people and let us run and run without shame. I love you so much, guys. Please do not forget that we're sponsored by Sense Studios. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.
It was so nice.
It was
Oh.
nice.